The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be, not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves?
I see dead people walking around like regular people. They don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
The UFO, UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely. At Lane Cove.
When was this?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
I'm not wishing that all that shit with me up.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This episode is brought to you by 7 completely awesome people. Lisa Bowden, Tabin Rice, Kelly Lewis, Mecca Mickey, Diane Boss, Jeanette Angel, and Dorothy Hawkins. And a special thank you to all of the subscribers on YouTube and followers on Spotify. If you wish to support the podcast, you can hit that join button below to help become an Eyes to That Sky member. Or if you want to join our Patreon or provide other support, the links are below in the show description. But now, on with the show. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone out there.
Yeah, in video land. What is going on? We are coming to you live from southeastern Michigan within the shadow of the great Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. As we are tucked away in our little humble abode, we want to welcome everybody to the show. And I see we have a bunch of people out there already watching the show. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It is May 26, 2024, and a very windy thunderstorm has decided to blow in just for this show.
Yeah, I had my friend who lives in Indiana posting pictures of the radar as it was coming across. So we knew it was coming.
Yep. So welcome, everybody in chat. Good seeing you. A lot of people there. So thanks for watching us, and also people on Instagram tonight and on Twitter, or now known as X. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good seeing everybody here. Let's do our quick housekeeping things that we always have to do. So first of all, if you would like to email the show, the email that you can send your comments, your questions, your stories, your suggestions, whatever, mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Also, if you wish to make a donation to the podcast, you can do so with PayPal, but super chats are open, super thanks are open. Buy us a coffee or join the Patreon. And all those links can be found down in the show description.
So, and then finally, we are just 10 episodes away from our 100th episode of doing this podcast. So we've decided we're going to have a get together at our local, New Boston Coney and Grill. So working out the dates for the end of June, early July. So, but definitely stay tuned for more information on that.
Yep. And lastly, once again, a hello to everybody on X, and of course here in YouTube land, and now on Instagram. So thanks for joining us tonight. And as I was saying, with the thunderstorm that decided to roll in and rain on us and blow some heavy winds around, it's going to be kind of a creepy night tonight.
I was going to say, it kind of set the ambiance.
It does.
Tonight.
It does. We got all the lights turned out in the house, and it's kind of creepy sounding rain hitting the side of the house. And so we're going to have Gemma Jade joining us here shortly. She's running just a little bit late. She said she'll be on in about 5 minutes. So
I think they're dealing with some weather where she's at too.
Yep. And so she's going to come and talk to us about her latest books and research on the black-eyed kids, and now some mysterious disappearances. So that should be very interesting to talk about.
It's like we're going full CSI tonight.
It is. But before we get more into that, I do want to let everybody know that down below in the show description, I put a link to Gemma's books and her YouTube page. So go and check out her YouTube page. And also there is a link to some of her books separately, but I linked her whole catalog over on Amazon. So I'm going to show you guys that real quick while we're waiting for her to show up. So right here, you'll know you're in the right place when you see this. So we've got Gone, Mysterious Disappearances. We're going to talk about Encounters with Evil. Yet again, 101 true terrifying stories. We got Midnight Visitors, True Stories of the Black-Eyed Kids, Campfire Stories, Encounters in the Woods, and then Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond. And don't forget, she's got her bestseller, I believe it was, The Missing, The Fae Theory. So, yeah.
Well, there's some mysterious disappearances.
Yeah.
Start talking about the Fae.
So there's all her books, and you can check them out with the link below. So, man, I just happened to look up and I see there's 75 comments in chat. That
but we're all talking about the weather. Even slow motion. They're talking about that it's stormy in Ireland.
Oh,
right now.
Isn't it always stormy in Ireland though?
That's why all the beautiful green colors.
Yeah. The UK gets all kinds of nasty weather coming off the Atlantic there. So let's see. What do we got going on? We got Mike J is here. We got Chris Jarvis. We got Diane Boss.
Honey, I'm going to tell you right now, if you try running the chat with the names, you're going to miss somebody out. There is a lot of folks here tonight.
Well, of course we got Ghost Dragon is here, so welcome, Ghost Dragon. Of course, Ghost Dragon's gonna be here. We got Kelly Lewis. We got let's see, John P. Adventures. I think I already said that. Diane Boss, thanks for joining us. Slow Motion. I don't even know who I've left out. Brian L. We got somebody who's bound and determined to troll Gemma tonight. I think somebody's got a little bit of a crush.
Or
I don't know.
But what? Save the Cheetos.
Right.
You got to save the Cheetos.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron's Energy 313 is here. Marcel Goofonian Metalhead is here. So we got Kelly Lewis. We got a ton of people. Blue Crossroads. You guys all know we love you. So good seeing you guys. All right. Let's go ahead and on this creepy night, let's talk about Gemma a little bit. So she's back with us. She's talking about black-eyed children, mysterious disappearances. We're going to talk some tea on books and everything else, what's been going on. And I know recently she was on Bigfoot Michigan Rob's page just a few days ago. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But Gemma, if you don't know, is a psychic knower. She's an intuitive oracle reader, a seer, and lifelong medium. And we've been talking to Gemma for, God, how long now? Probably 3 years. I think we had Gemma on for the first time in like our season 2, and we just all kind of hit it off and had a good time. And man, she nailed some stuff about Michelle. Somebody kind of visiting and everything else. It was crazy. And then you ended up winning a little bit of money.
Well, there was that, but
Yeah.
there's been
other things
too.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if Gemma's like, wow, Michelle, you don't have any more dark energy around you.
Yeah.
Like,
What's going on? So, all right. So anyways, she's a writer and a best-selling author. You guys know this. And she mainly writes paranormal nonfiction. She has a lot of books out there. Like I said, you can find links to all of them and her page on Amazon in the show description below. But everybody, let's go ahead and just bring her on. It is the lady of the hour. It's Gemma Jade.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, you made it.
I did. I went to a barbecue and I was like, I'm not going to go because I have this really important interview tonight. And my husband's like, I'll have you back in time. So we're like flying in this little minivan down the road. Luckily, it's really nice out and there was no traffic. So here I am, fresh from the barbecue.
Well, good. So at least you're not having to deal with the torrential rainfall and tornado warnings and stuff.
Beautiful here. It's a little humid. It's like 83 degrees. But you know what? I go by Ghost Dragon's ZW's weather because in Ohio, whatever he gets 2 or 3 days later, I know I'm getting hit with. So if he's like, oh, there's like storms or whatever, I'm like, okay, so in 2 or 3 days, I'm going to have to, do what I need to do because there are storms. Or I go by his weather, not New Jersey's because I don't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's understandable. So, all right, Gemma, we need to talk tea.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All
the tea.
Yeah, what has been going on, Miss Righty Pants? You've been writing a ton. I mean, I thought I was doing good when I had this one right here. Danger at Your Door. And you're like, oh, no, honey, no. So what Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, what's been going on since then?
So... yeah, what happened was I had a writing contract where I was making like super duper good money. Everything was going really great. And what I didn't realize was it was a year-long contract. Like I just signed it. And one day they were like, oh no, your contract was terminated. It's been a year. And I lost all that money. So my mentor was like, dude, you're a writer, write. And I'm like, you know what? I can write books easily. So I have another book that I'm working on that is like Danger at Your Door, where there's, a lot of research, a lot of time put into it. It'd probably take me about a year to get it out. Hello. But these other books, they're fairly easy for me to do. I love to write. So Campfire Stories, volumes 1 and 2, that was sent in by you guys, by the crew, the crowd, the watchers, the fans. And I put that together. And 2 of them, and so funny because the second one went bestseller, the first one didn't do that well. I don't know, but basically It's listener encounters on steroids, and everyone loves the listener encounters. And I was like, this is great. So then With Gone, though, it was really important to me because so many people do cover the mysterious disappearances. Diane, I love you, girl. But nobody wants to talk about the possibility that something supernatural or paranormal or extraterrestrial may have happened in these cases. Everyone's afraid to do it because they don't want to offend. And I don't either. I put a disclaimer that I'm not trying to hurt anybody. But guys, like, we have to talk about this. A guy who's walking not even 8 feet, I'd say 3 or 4 feet in front of his 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old's gone within like 2 seconds of him just turning around. Like, no footprints, nothing left behind, no signs that anyone was there. There was like no water around. There wasn't even a noise. We need to talk about why, or possibilities at least, because nobody else wants to do it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I manned up and Gone, Mysterious Disappearances, Volume 1 and 2. Volume 1 went bestseller. Volume 2 didn't. I don't know what's going on there, but I just love writing. I always have ever since I was little. I have thousands of notebooks from when I was like 6 to now where I would just write. And now I get to do it for a living thanks to these fine folks. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, maybe they're not going bestseller yet because they got to have some time to read through them.
I think that's what it is. I think my promotion with it too is like, like this one, I was just surprised it was put out. Like the person that helps me with that, because I'm self-published now, like I didn't get the memo somehow. And I didn't even know my book was out until like the next day. But they're doing well. I mean, I can't complain. And like I said, being able to do this for a living, I don't make loads of money, but it's more about like the connection. Like I want to make connections and I want to bring people together and I want to write. So I've been writing prolifically, as my mentor would say.
Have you ever done any of the conferences, like taken books with you and have done book signings or?
No, I
anything like
tried to
that?
have one book signing once and it was just horrific. It was embarrassing.
I just wonder with conferences, because they're always looking for like the vendors and the authors, hitting just the right conference.
I'm going to have to, I'll have to look into it because they do a lot of them in New Jersey. Like Ghost Dragons and I went with my mom and my sister. We went to Para Unity and I spoke to the guy who runs it. And he said, I can set up shop, next year, like this October. Someone else invited me to speak at a haunted bed and breakfast near Gettysburg, but I never actually thought about just getting a bunch. That's why I need you guys. Like, that's why I need friends that like support me because these things just I don't leave my house really. So these things don't really like come to me. But that's a great idea.
Yeah. Now, speaking of not leaving your house, why are you kind of like, I kind of know the answer to this, but why would you be so hesitant to leave your house?
The same reason I'm hesitant to cover true crime or watch the news, to be honest. I'm a medium and I can't help that. Now I can tone it down and keep most of what's around out if I want to. But if I do that for too long, I will get a migraine headache. I may get nauseous. And sometimes I end up needing blood transfusions because they're feeding off of my energy. And even if it's a cool dead person that wants to sit and find out about Netflix and talk to me the whole time, that's cool. But they're still feeding off of my living energy. So going to the grocery store and running into 75 dead, not to mention, that's one small part of why I really don't leave my house. The main thing is I'm a knower and I don't know what else to call it. I'm sure there's some professional fancy word for what this is, but I will go, for instance, to a restaurant. And if I don't shut it down, I will know like the waiter is on drugs. I'll know the guy behind us is cheating with the girl that he's with and she's cheating with him. I'll know that the cook in the kitchen is drunk. I just receive too much and it becomes very overwhelming and it makes me sick. And I just haven't found a good way to just completely tune it out. So I stay home for the most part.
Where are you getting that information from? Is this from channeling spirit or you just pick this up?
This
like,
I'm just picking up. There's doesn't even have to be spirit around or like I just know things. It's so weird. It's not like I read people's thoughts or anything like that, but I think I might be. I just know, like I'll meet a new person and people will be like, oh, this is Bob, what a great guy. And I immediately know that Bob's like a swindler and he's going to like rob you. Like, I don't know. But it can be very overwhelming. And I found since I got off drugs 5.5 years ago, it's become more overwhelming. So I try to just don't go out unless I have to. So it's really good though, because I have this beautiful community around me online. So I really do hardly ever notice. When people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, listen, I have a beautiful house, a beautiful property. Anytime I need connection, I hop online and I have dozens of people, sometimes hundreds, talking to me. And I don't really notice. The only time I notice is like when my little guy's like, I'm so bored. Like, when are we going to do something? And I'm like, oh crap. Like, I haven't taken him to the park in like a week because I didn't want to go out. But otherwise, you know, I think it's just me and just like who I am and who I was meant to be.
Personal question. Do you think that you were being, I don't know. I want to word this gently. Do you think you were that sensitive and that might have been what started the whole addiction problem that you had to kind of
That
shut that
definitely
out?
is. No, it's
Okay.
100% because it started with, you know, pills for my teeth. And then I was like, ooh, I don't get as much when I'm taking these. And then I took them, and, you know, pills always leads to something else once the addiction comes. But then I just looked like, instead of just looking like a crazy lady, I looked like a crazy drugged lady. So it didn't do me any favors. And getting out of it, that's why I decided, like, I have to face this head on and I have to do something positive with who I am, because otherwise I'm going to die. Like, I literally would have died. So I started YouTube and I decided I'm going to help as many people like me, and even people who aren't like me, but who are just interested in what we do here. And I think that's what I just try to do, you know, to make sure everyone's good. I have a lot of recovering addicts that subscribe to me, that I talk to a lot, and I help them get into programs, or I talk to them about their experiences and I let them get it out to someone who's not going to judge them, not going to tell on them. And I won't ever talk about it with them again. They know they can come to me. I'll talk them through it. And then I will never mention it again unless they tell me it's okay. And I think that's really important, because if I had had that, who knows what I would have done.
Yeah. Well, you hear that a lot though from people. It always starts out as like something, well, I don't want to say always. A lot of times it's peer pressure when people get into some of the heavy drugs and things like that. But a lot of the times it's medicinal, like legit. You've had surgery or something like that, and people are given these opioids and stuff to combat the pain, but your brain adapts to that so that your body can't produce what it needs to produce on
Yeah.
its own to
Absolutely.
get
And
rid
it
of the
wants
pain.
more. And, you know, I started at 30. I always had this big fear of drugs because, you know, I have family members and I saw what it did to them. And I was like, oh, no, that is not for me. I wasn't even like
Mhm.
an experimenting teenager. 30 years old, I just went for the big guys, you know? But I love what we do. And I think you guys are the ones who interviewed me the most total. And also, I think you were like my first solo interview, or like one of the very first
I think
when I
so.
first started out.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of, if not the very first. And I love you guys for that. You guys are so cool. Has Gemma ever had an NDE? I wish.
I want to add on to that.
I
So
wish.
J. Hall asks, has Gemma ever had an NDE? And for those that don't know, NDE is a near-death experience. Or I'm going to add in, have you ever received like communication from somebody who was having a near-death experience?
So the NDE, I say I wish, because personally I'm a religious person, but I don't include that in what I do online because it's not for everybody. I do spiritual healing, right? But I'm like, is that the only way I get to meet Jesus? Like, come on, I gotta have an NDE. No, I've never had one. And I don't really understand what your part of the question was. Do you mean
So
like, have I ever? Go ahead.
somebody who's on their way out, like maybe something happened to
Oh.
them and they are outside their body, but their body's still technically alive. You know, have you had that situation before?
That's happened many times to me, and I call that the
Okay.
higher self visit. I got a visit from, and I know he won't care that I tell this story, Ghost Dragon ZW's father, who's still alive, but he's very elderly, and I'm very close with him. He's like my dad. So I get a visit from him and I immediately think, oh my gosh, oh no, Pop passed. And he's just like sitting on my bed, just smiling and just not speaking. This is just one example of the many times this has happened. And I call up Ghost Dragon, and it wasn't his father, but his brother that had passed. I don't know why his dad visited me. I don't know if it was a comfort thing for something I was going through. But it was at a time when his father was very sick, sleeping a lot, maybe even been in hospital, but I'm not sure. But definitely going through something. I'll also see not only the higher self will come, and then I'll know that they've passed. The higher self comes when the person's still alive. Sometimes I'll get a visitation from someone who like just passed. And I don't want to say their name because I don't want to offend anyone, but someone from this community who recently passed away that I loved dearly, that passed on my birthday, suddenly. I saw him in my room and he just was, hey, Gems, and then he was gone. And I remember thinking, that's strange. I should call him. But then the next day on my birthday, I found out that he had passed. And that's usually what I'll get. I'll get someone smiling. And I think that's like their way of saying to me, like, let everyone know I'm good. Like, I'm smiling. I'm good. I'm me. I'm at peace. It happens all the time. And if someone is very near death, I will see death on them. And it is disgusting. It looks like they have maggots. And I'm talking like very sick people. Like if I go to a hospital and I happen to like peek into a room, I can see it. Your soul starts preparing for death 4 months before you die. No matter how you die, if it's like this sudden, it doesn't matter. Your soul knows when you're going to go, because in your chart, you chart 5 to 7 exit points. So at all these different points come up, your soul will start preparing. So your soul knows. And sometimes it looks like actual, like flies. If there's 2 flies, I'm like, okay, they're going to pass away in like 6 months. If there's like 20 flies, I'm like, wow, they've got a few hours, and it's like, I don't go to hospitals often.
Right. Wow. That's fascinating. I would be freaked out.
I'm just so used to it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for me, like, okay. And I think that's another thing. Like I really just had to grow into this and just understand that, look, I can take it as a curse. I don't know why me. I don't know why. But I do know now that it's not. I spent my whole life thinking it's evil. I'm cursed. There's something wrong with me. I belong to Satan. And I struggled. But now I'm like, man, I can like really help people that are maybe as scared as I was. Or some people come to me like their kids are seeing certain things. How would you handle this? Definitely not the way it was handled for me. So I realize now how much help I can. It is really sometimes overwhelming, but it's in my opinion what God or what the universe, whatever you believe in, chose to give me. And it was definitely for a reason, not for me to struggle my whole life. So I made something good of it, I think. And I think that I'm really happy with where I am.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like things have worked out pretty well, that you're able to channel this into something more positive.
And talk about it.
Yeah.
It's hard to verbalize certain things. So the fact that you can even talk about it with the group online.
Well, my thing is too, I always tell people, and I even write it sometimes in my books. I'm like, listen, I can't prove this to you. If you believe me, and if you don't, you don't. And that's okay. If you're here because this is entertainment for you and you're like voyeuristic, that's fine. Leave me a comment. It helps the algorithm. I'm never trying to convince anyone of anything. It's interaction. I don't care. Give me the FU. It's interaction. But I can prove things to people through Oracle. And I think that's where I get a lot of people hooked, because I tell them flat out, I never miss. Go ahead, try me, because it's not me. That's spirit moving through me. As a human being, I'm fallible. I'm imperfect, but spirit is perfect. So when they're telling me something and giving me messages, it's your message, man. It's what you do with it. And Michelle, you do look much brighter, and a lot less ickiness around you.
I got a story that I'll text you.
Yeah, that would be, because you're just, I think at that time, and that's the thing, guys, anybody who doesn't know that story, we were in the middle of a stream one time, and I just randomly blurted out that Michelle had like I think I said darkness or dark energy.
Dark energy.
because it was so natural and normal to me to like say that. Like if I said that to my mom, she'd be like, oh, okay, what do we do? So, but I didn't realize like Michelle, she was just like horrified thinking I don't know what you were thinking. I don't know what, but I remember for a while you were like nervous. And then I was like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I just blurted it out because I should have pulled you aside maybe. So I do
It's okay. It took us a couple weeks, but we got it straightened out.
You do look much brighter and much more on your path, even if you don't maybe feel like you are much more on your charted path. And I could just see it. You're just very much in alignment. Not so much craziness going on in your background, and that's good. We all have some, but you just had an excessive amount that night. And yeah.
Like I said, I'll text you the story.
Please do.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time. So
it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Sorry, I had to go English teacher for a second.
Yes.
When I was younger, I wanted to be an English teacher.
Well, you do enough writing.
I was going to say you got part of it there.
Yeah, I always wanted to. But I feel like like my personality, I know that like I'm such a natural open book. I know that I would not be able to separate the friendship part. I knew it. Like I put so much thought into it because I was going to go to school for it. And I was like, you know what, me being me, I would want to be like the cool, like friendly teacher. And I probably would take it too far. Like, I'd be like, oh, your grandpa's with you. And we'd have like, it would be horrible. But I applaud you because I do respect that a lot because I did always want to do that with my life.
Yeah, you'd
maybe
send
another
the kids out screaming.
Start getting emails and phone calls.
I have
from
no
parents.
filter, I'm telling you. And I just imagined it in my head and I'm like, maybe let's go another route, Gems.
Well, speaking of that, I have students that like to watch the show, and one of the teachers at our school made it a end of the year project that the kids had to get together in like groups of 2 and create a podcast. And she said, Mr. Brayton's got a podcast. You could talk to him about it and watch his show. And she was playing shows for the kids and giving them ideas and stuff, right? So a couple of my students, my kiddos, have been watching the show, and one of them, I'm not going to name her. She knows who she is. She came up to me. She's like, I can't watch your show anymore. So why not? She goes, well, my mom doesn't want me watching things like that. And, aliens and psychic stuff, but I've got it under control. Don't worry. I'll be there.
It's so funny you brought that up because on the way here, like I was starting to fall asleep. I'd been swimming all day. Like I was tired. And on the way here, I was thinking to myself, I wonder, do their students know that they're online? I actually I had that thought. And now you just answered my question. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, Black-Eyed Kids. Let's jump into that since we are on Creepyville now. The sky is all kind of greenish.
It's
color.
like October and May. Come on, let's do this.
All right. So Black-Eyed Kids, what has gone on with so much that you wrote in the first book that you actually came out with a second one? And so I got to know, like, what kicked it over for you that you had so much material or something more to say about these, because I'm fascinated with these
Me too.
stories.
Me too.
I want to know if they're alien, if they're hybrids, if they're demonic, if they're spirit. Why do they are they vampires? What is going on here? So talk to us a little bit about your second book on the Black-Eyed Kids, or maybe give everybody a quick little history about it, those that maybe have not seen you before.
The one thing I can tell you, when I look at something, so I used to do obviously not to that extent, but like for my friends, like what Amy and Cindy had done for the Dead Files, I would do that for friends. I'd walk through and be like, oh no, that's not, a demon, that's a troll, or, just do it for them as a friend. And when I look at something, I can automatically see what it is. So it presenting itself as a gigantic, 19-foot tall cloaked demon, but really it's a scared child that's trying to scare people away. I can see right through it. So I know if I ever saw a BEK, I think I would be able to immediately identify what it is, right? I can tell you for sure they're not actual demons, and they are vampiric as in they energetically feed. Other than that, no idea, even after all that research. But so the black-eyed kids, I'll give you guys a brief rundown because I think most people do know. And if not, you can buy my book. I mean, whatever. But they are, you'll get a knock at night, usually when you're alone or if you're with someone who's like sleeping, and the other person will not wake up. It doesn't matter if you superfly Jimmy Snook them into their stomach. They are not waking up. So it's basically you're alone. And they knock on the door. And so before even the knock, you're kind of feeling anxious. You're feeling this feeling of dread. And I've heard it's unlike anything you can compare it to. It's incomparable dread, fear, terror. And they knock and you don't want to open the door because you're feeling this weird way. So you might talk through the door, or before you talk, they'll say, please, if they're, ma'am, my little brother needs to use your phone. And meanwhile, you see two kids. One of them's like 10, say the other one's 3. They could be boys or girls. They run from like 3 years old to 17, but say it's 2 boys, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And for me, my initial instinct would be, oh my gosh, there are 2 kids and they've got to be lost, especially where I live. And they usually come in the more, rural areas, I guess. Not so urban, but sometimes they do. And something's off. So you're thinking, why don't these kids have a cell phone? Why are they out late at night? How did they get here? And the more you say no, that you're not going to help them or that you'll call for them, they start getting angry. They kick the door. They'll say things like, we can't come in unless you invite us in. And then they'll do the big reveal they always have a smirk on their face. And they will look up at you and make sure you can see they're all black eyes, no iris, no sclera, everything's black. And there's so much nuance to like the stories. I wrote about a couple that allegedly let them in, but I even said in the book, I really don't know if I believe this story because I don't believe if you let them in, you're going to be around to tell about it. I really don't. I don't know if they take you or if they're extraterrestrial, they take you, if they're from another dimension. I don't believe they're just leaving people. They need to get in and they need that invitation for a reason. Now, the reason I know they're not demonic is the demonic always needs an invitation, even if it's something inadvertent. But they can take a slight, like if you leave your door open, that's like an invitation to the demonic. It's very simple. These kids need you to actively say, okay, you can come in my home or my vehicle. That is very, very different. They've been known to read thoughts. One woman thought, Jesus Christ, and thought it in her head. And the kid looked at her and said, he's not real, right? And she's like, I just thought it in my head, it's terrifying.
Well, Neen asks, question, why must they ask you to enter their home? That's a good question.
So I don't know for sure. I don't think anyone knows, but a couple of my theories on that is, well, the first one is like anything lower vibrational, very negative is just by some universal law really not allowed to touch us. Even with the demonic, right? They've mastered turning themselves into little kids without the black eyes giving them away. They are always possessing young children or hanging out with young kids posing as children without all black eyes. There's a big difference there. As far as the invite, nobody knows that, but that's what makes it so creepy because, vampire lore, you have to invite them in and sometimes you can rescind, these things need to be invited. And I just know it's because partly they're so either evil or lower vibrational that it's just like sacred law, like universal law that they cannot enter our space without invitation. There are a lot of entities like that. We just don't realize it because the invitation, again, could be like going to a cemetery to take pictures and then leaving your door open. Well, you came and got me and left your door open for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing. These kids need the actual verbal invite, and I don't know why. Nobody seems to.
I wonder if it has something to do with like the sanctity of the home, like the home, people,
Wow.
the home is your castle, kind of a thing.
Your
I think
sacred
there's
space.
yeah, like a sacred space, right? I just wonder if it has something to do with that. I mean, I'm sure there's probably vampire law out or lore out there that probably explains it. But yeah, that's just very interesting. Now, we got a question from Aaron's Energy 313 regarding the people they target. Are there any common themes? Oh, that's a great one. Have you noticed any common
So
themes in your research?
I looked into this. I looked into this hard. Is there a religious aspect? Are they only targeting like Christians, or are they only targeting Satanists? Are they targeting? No, there is no common theme. They've accosted 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, boys, girls, 92-year-olds. It runs the gamut. It's like, I see a lot of people think if you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not me. I think, and I have so many theories. That's why the book was so long. And I'll tell you why I
Yeah.
did a second one in a minute. But I think that they're either like alien extraterrestrial hybrids gone wrong. And they're like, well, these didn't turn out right. Just throw them on Earth. They do go back and forth from somewhere, because one common theme that happens a lot that not a lot of people are talking about, but I am, is the popping noise. So many people hear popping noises right before they have their encounter and immediately after. This is interdimensional travel. It happens sometimes with shadow people, a lot less often, but it does happen where you'll hear the popping noise. But there are no common themes. So many people, I know myself, David Weatherly, Nick Redford are the three. Like, I know all three of us investigated common themes, and I did it like to an extreme degree. Out of the year and a half it took me to write that book, probably like 6 months of it was looking for common theme behind everything else. There were none. It's like, I don't believe it's luck of the draw, though. I really, truly believe that there's either something in our energy that we somehow see. There are people that say they target people who don't know about them, which seemed to be true when I first got into the research. Then I got into the research and I'm like, this is like other occult stuff. If you stare too deep into the abyss stares back, or whatever Nietzsche said there. I always use that because I believe that if you're looking into them, I was terrified I was going to have an encounter. You're calling them to you. For some reason, a great reason, whatever it was, they did not come to me yet. But I do believe you can call them to you, or I do believe there's something that attracts them to a specific person. Maybe you have no idea that you're an abductee and this was one of your hybrid children. Maybe you just happen to be living in the area where they were dumped on Earth. I don't know. And there are no common themes at all.
Maybe that's the common theme, that there are no common themes.
Just that it is, because there's nothing.
That's really strange. Dorothy, $5 super chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Mama Dorothy. Thanks for featuring Gemma Jade. Love her energy. Yes, Gemma is awesome.
I swear every time Dorothy's picture pops up, I think I'm looking at my mother-in-law.
Yeah. She looks so much like my mom. It's so bizarre. And then who was it? Somebody in chat just said, was it Aaron's Energy 313? That her son's name is Braden, B-R-A-Y-D-E-N.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
I said, just take the Y out and you have my last name. That's hilarious, man. See, everybody shows up at these shows and we're all connected in some way. I mean, it's really bizarre.
Yeah, I've learned it on my channel as well, for sure. I just saw a question I wanted to answer. So Nane said, do BEK ask anything from the targeted person, something common from the person? So they do, but it's a part of their ruse to get in. So normally they'll ask to use the phone, but it's like an 8-year-old speaking to you like Wayne speaks. You know what I'm saying? Very adult, very mature, very in control. And then the smaller one, or the younger looking one, will always be standing there nervously. There are a lot of, and they'll look at each other. They'll stop talking and look at each other for like they're communicating telepathically. And then they'll turn back. If you say no to the phone, they'll say, oh, my little brother has to use the bathroom. So they ask you for these types of things. That is very common. They will always knock and ask for something that has them gain entry, right? Can we use your phone? Can we use your bathroom? One asked if they can use a telegraph. Another two saw an army soldier on base unloading groceries in the middle of the daytime and came up and said, is it food time? I'm hungry. Can I come in for food time? So they're not from here. A lot of the time they're dressed in raggedy old clothes. And I mean old, like 17th century, 18th, even early 19th century clothing. Doesn't fit well. They look raggedy, pale, kind of dirty. They look like ragamuffins, really. But then other times they'll show up like, dressed in the latest fashion, very clean clothes. A lot of times a hoodie because it covers the eyes for the initial interaction. But now what they're doing, and I've seen this only in recent years, they're carrying something. So, for example, say you have a 3-year-old son, and that 3-year-old son is like obsessed with one stuffed animal. You know how kids have like wubbies, like blankets, or say it's a blanket. The smaller BEK will be the same age as your kid and be carrying the exact same wubby toy or blankie, whatever, as your kid has. To do that human connection of like, wow, that's just like my son. I wouldn't want to leave my son out here. Your humanity almost overwhelms you. But the thing about the BEK, it's not like other entities, because normally people are able to resist and shut the door or resist and drive away. Whereas it's like whoever trained them like to glamour people or like overtake someone's mind didn't do it very well, because they seem to almost get you, like to the point where you're opening the door, and then you realize what you're doing, slam it shut and run. It's like any other entity would have that control over you. You're doing what it needs you to do or what it wants you to do. The BEK, it's like they failed that course or something, because they only get you halfway there.
Yeah, it's like there's something missing in their intelligence gathering or something like that. It's very bizarre.
I wonder too, a lot of the time with them. So again, like I say, like there's something missing. They're are they there doing something that we don't know? So a lot of extraterrestrials tend to screen our memories.
Right.
We'll think that we just saw one in our room. We start suddenly months or years later remembering that we were actually abducted and all these crazy things happen. Are they there doing these things and they just have such good screens? Because otherwise they just walk off. What is the point of this interaction? Now, until we have people that actually have let them in and can 100% prove it, which how are they ever going to do that? We're not going to know. But I do wonder in the back of my head, are they actually gaining that entry? Is this, can I use your phone, just the screen memory that we're being given? And the actual interaction is they don't need the invitation. They come in, they do whatever it is they do, and they leave. And we're just remembering it in this way. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I have a theory about how the UFOs affect people. And I was talking to Michelle about this, and then I talked to one of our friends and former guest on the show, Guy Merritt. My idea is that, you've heard these stories about people that see a UFO, and there can be one person standing there, they see something, and they're telling people around them, do you see that? And people are like, no, they don't. Other people are not seeing it while this other person is. My theory is that person was maybe in this area, like Michelle and I. Let's say we were we drove this same area multiple times. Did we have anybody contact us and say, I saw that triangular craft that same time at that same place that you did, even though there were people there at 2:30 in the morning driving by? Never heard anything.
We saw cars.
Yeah, we saw cars, but we also saw this craft. I think that it's like a repressed memory that reveals itself when you get to that same exact spot at the same exact time, or very close to it, and then the veil is kind of revealed.
Yes.
So right, so like the person standing on the beach pointing out at the craft over the water going, hey, I see this craft. You guys see it? No, we don't see anything. Well, they saw it before. And it could have been a year before. It could have been a couple weeks before.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And then they're remembering it while everybody there right now in real time, there's nothing there. It's just a thought I have.
I've never actually thought of it like that, but I understand completely what you're saying. And the thing is, we never can know. Now, a lot of people disagree with me on a lot of my opinions, and that's okay, guys, because I don't ever want to try to convince anyone of anything, right? I just want y'all to listen and go with whatever you feel is right? You're going to go by what your experiences are. But I believe from my personal experience that ETs are capable of messing with our minds so much that do we really know what's real? Do we know? Like, I didn't even know that I had visitations, but I knew my whole life that I couldn't even watch Star Wars because I was terrified. I would say terrified of space to try to make it funny, but I was really terrified of anything having to do with outer space. I would panic and I would run and hide, and just at the look of a spaceship. I don't know what that is.
A spaceship.
A spaceship.
So weird. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I am in the middle of the woods. I'm sure it's my husband playing with something. But like, and I didn't know why until 3 years ago when I suddenly had these memories of visitations and abductions. And then I wonder, was I born with this or was this implanted in me? Is this something extrasensory from ETs? A friend of mine, I don't want to say his name because we don't talk anymore, but I used to work with him. He's one of the first people I ever worked with on YouTube. Great guy. He said that he had a really strange dream one time, and I had had the exact same dream at the exact same age. He had a dream when he was like 6 or 7 years old where he was in a spaceship with some strange looking alien, and he was playing with this really cool looking toy that he couldn't identify because it wasn't a human. It wasn't on Earth, right? He's in this dream. And the alien that's with him is a female, motherly. He felt that. And he looks, and he's also extraterrestrial. And he says, why can't I bring my toy? And the mother goes, because they don't have them on Earth. You must leave it here.
Whoa.
The ship lands. He gets out. He's walking really funny because he's this extraterrestrial. Boom. He wakes up. I had the exact same dream at the exact same age. And I didn't know this man until 5 years ago. So were we brought here? He doesn't have the same abilities as me, but he has a lot of extrasensory abilities as well. I think they can, my point is, I think they can mess with our mind so much that like, who knows? The Galactic Federation guys, this is where I usually lose people, but it is real. It is, motherships directly outside of our atmosphere, sometimes right in our sky, that cloak themselves. And they do make sure that we are not attacked, overtaken, literally eaten by certain other extraterrestrial types. And that's just fact, in my opinion, because I've been there. I've been taken there many times, and they don't really explain much, but sometimes they do, and I'll write it down and then I lose it. So are you right? Is that what's happening? And they're just kind of shielding some people, and you can never know. I mean, that's the whole frustrating part about it, is all we can do is theorize on any of this.
Yeah, and the more you say that you think you know what's going on, or that it's like the more crazy you sound, and the more you lose people. Right?
Exactly. Every time I bring up the Galactic Federation, I do lose people on that one. But you know what? I'm going to own it because it's my experience. It's what happened to me. And if you think it's funny and you don't want to believe it, that's cool, because you're still listening to me, and it's still, the idea is still implanted in your head, right? And if that seed belongs in your head, you heard it for a reason, it's going to grow whether you like it or not. And I did learn a lot of really cool things about my ability and about humans in general from I almost said the people, that I connect with them like that some of the time, but the entity is up there.
Man, I was just going to ask you something, and I just lost
I was going to
it.
say, I've got so many questions starred right
Sorry.
now.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
I don't know what we've discussed now and what we haven't. But Nan asks, what harm have black-eyed kids done to their intended targets? And do the targets feel something has been taken away after the black-eyed kids have left them?
Okay, so with just the visitations, a lot of the time, because people don't let them in. But a lot of the time, obviously, the terror, the dread, they'll feel very exhausted. They'll get migraines. But other than that, no, they do feel energetically drained. But many people, believe it or not, in this community, energetically drained is just something we talk about all the time. But most people outside of this community don't know what that is. They just feel like, oh, man, that's weird. I'm tired all of a sudden. Yeah, something zapped you. They feel that. Pets Pets are known to either die from like hemorrhaging from the inside out. This has happened many times across the board with BEK visitation, or they go missing without a trace within days of the BEK knocking, or they have to end up unfortunately being put down because dogs that were once peaceful become rabid, cats become feral. So they do affect pets. Now, if you look at the 2 or maybe 3 stories that are commonly believed by the collective to be true about the BEK being let in, one of them I actually do believe, and I talk about it in the book. One, and I didn't even think about it just now. Yes, they become very sick, and the common theme is they will become sick, say, and they finally go to the hospital or the doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh my God, you have measles." Soon as they start treating the measles, wait, you don't have measles anymore. You have a brain tumor. Soon as they start treating the brain tumor, wait, you don't have a brain tumor anymore. You have Crohn's disease. Every time you start treating it, it turns into something else. And this is common across the board, as is cancer. The specific little boy, the story I believe, the one verified story was when the little boy hopped into the car. I think I've said this before. The mother ran into the grocery. She left like her 10-year-old son in the back seat. She said, "I'll be right back." Left the car running, ran in, grabbed milk, bread, whatever she was doing. Within 3 minutes, she was out. She goes to adjust her mirror before she pulls out. She sees a BEK with its arm around her son. She is in autopilot. She opens the door. She opens the back door, pulls her son out, runs into the little store. She has to call her husband. The guy wants to call the cops, the guy that runs the store, but she's like, "Don't, please. I just want to." She calls her husband. She says, "Look, I'm not explaining anything. I'll explain when we get home. Take my car home. I'm going to take our son and drive your car. I just don't feel safe in the car. I'll tell you when we get home." The husband's like, "Okay, this is strange, but I'll do it." She and the son make it home. The husband ends up in the hospital. He had a car crash. I think he had like a minor concussion, some cuts and scrapes, but he said the last thing he remembered was smelling a foul odor, and he passed out. That was in the car the BEK was originally in. The son was sick, just like I described it, with this, with that, with the other, for 18 whole months, until finally the parents brought the boy to their church. They got back to religion. They said, this has to be something, demonic. It has to be something religious and not spiritual. They had like a straight 24 hours of the congregation taking shifts to pray over and for this little boy. The very next day, within I think it was 26 to 28 hours, he was never sick like that again. He was completely cured and healed, and they moved on with their lives. They breathe sickness into you somehow, and your animals are F-worded if they go around the BEK. Done.
Well, and I think that you just answered the question that I had up from Rhodey about whether or not it happened out in, the world and not just someone's private or personal property.
Oh, yes.
Talking about the store. Haven't there been records of time loss though?
Some time loss, but not a lot.
Okay.
If I have 10 cases, there may have been 2 people who think they might have been missing some time, but that's not really a common theme. It's the confusion that they cause. You want to help. Could you imagine, you want to help this kid that reminds you of your kid or some kid, you don't want to leave them out. They come during snowstorms, blizzards in the middle of nowhere where you can't just be wait outside for your mom. It's 3 a.m. It's blizzarding out. You're going to let them in. And that's what they're expecting. That's what they're preying on. One of them went up to a guy at a campsite and said, "You're going to drive me home." And the guy said, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Yeah, your red truck parked over there." How did it know he had a red truck? They watch. They have to be watching somehow. I just don't know. That's why I think, above anything else, I do think there's something to do with ETs. I don't know what.
You said there was a popping sound or something like that, right?
Yes.
I just wonder, because I wonder if there's something like radiological or something like that is affecting people in that way. I don't know. I know for myself, when Michelle and I had the triangle encounter just here in Canton, Michigan, just up the road, it was within a few months that my thyroid just went nuts, and they diagnosed me with Graves' disease, and I got to take these. Yeah. And I take these pills to regulate my thyroid. If I don't, I have hyperthyroidism, which is almost unheard of in men.
I believe that had to do with your encounter, because I do believe they make you sick. Extraterrestrials, and I've spoken to many, they don't mean, most of them do not mean to do this. And I've got to explain these experiments that they're doing, hurting people. Most of them, I can't say all, and I believe the Greys have a different agenda and the reptilians, but most of the time when you're abducted by something else, they don't have a concept of pain or of emotion the way we do. They understand it as a construct, but they don't feel anything but like love and like curiosity. They're trying to save their species. So they're doing these experiments on us. And a lot of the times I've covered so many cases where the ETs are just horrified at the humans screaming and begging for their lives. And they're just confused. Like, what do you mean? Like, this isn't going to hurt? Because to them, hurt isn't the same thing because they don't feel pain. So I think a lot of the time we're thinking evil, and a lot of the time, not all, but a lot of the time they don't mean to. It's just, you know, I personally believe they were allowed to do it. I am a big believer in the whole conspiracy about what's his name, the president in the 50s, like gave them permission in order to get
Eisenhower.
weapons. I believe in that. I really do. I don't talk about it often because a lot of people aren't on, and that's okay. I believe they were given permission, and that's why they're doing it. The uptick was ridiculous, and the technology we've gotten in the last 70 years is unlike anything else. So, you know, they really don't mean it. But I believe wholeheartedly that that could have had to do more than likely with the sighting, because just being in their vicinity, like me with the dead people, they don't mean to. They'll sit on my bed with me and ask me questions, and we'll watch TV and we'll laugh. And it's like hanging out and literally having a sleepover with a friend. That's what it's like for me a lot of the time. Another reason I don't leave my house. They don't mean to make me so sick I have to go to the hospital the next day if they hang around too long. They're just existing in my presence, and I'm aware of them. So when we become aware of the ETs in that way, is it the same thing? It could be.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Gemma Jade on with us tonight. You can find her YouTube channel at Gemma Jade YT. And you can also find her books on Amazon. All the links are below. And I threw some links into chat. So make sure if you're listening to this, jump on over to YouTube and get those links. And also check the show description in iTunes or Spotify, or however you're listening to us. Check it out. All right. So we got Danger at Your Door. And now we have The Midnight Visitors, the second book. Let's dig in.
So honestly, it's so simple. The second book, Midnight Visitors, is because people love encounters. And I know for me, especially with the BEK, I don't want to, like, a lot of the time I'll go to an article and I'll skim everything until I find the encounter. You know, that's what's most interesting. And people the more questions I was getting through email of people who had read my books, they were asking about encounters. And I was like, you know what? I got y'all. And I put out a whole book, Midnight Visitors, where Danger at Your Door is like the real extensive research, the theories, the speculation, some encounters, but a lot of like my own opinions, theories. Midnight Visitors is just encounters, true encounters to the best of my ability to verify them. And it's, again, if you love encounters and you really don't care about or don't feel like reading all the extra stuff, Midnight Visitors is your book, because it is nothing but encounters with the BEK. There's no opinions. There's no extra stuff, just the encounters.
Yeah, I know some of our best shows that we do is when we do some of our listener communication shows, you know, with our communication corner. And yeah, people love the stories. And as far as we know, they're all true. And some of the detail and things that people send us are you got to be with it in a real situation to come up with some of this stuff. And
that's what it is for me too. It's like, you know, where are you? And you know what? There have been encounters that I've foregone, like Campfire Stories, Volume 1 and 2. Those are smaller books. They're encounters in the woods that real people have had. So again, listener encounters, but like on steroids, they're longer. There were some that I read through and I didn't energetically connect. So what I'll do is I'll put my energy feelers out and I'll be like, okay, this feels right to me. And if I can contact the person with additional questions or clarifying questions, I will. And that's what those two books are. They're just listener encounters, but a lot longer and a lot more in depth than what I put on my show.
Yeah. Michelle, do we got some more questions out there for Gemma?
We had one, and I know it was related back to talking about the popping sound.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's this about the metallic clanking noises that a lot of people hear in the woods. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's very similar, if not the same. See, I've never heard either, but a lot of people do liken one to the other. And I believe, and I always have, even before I heard about the BEK and these, because the popping noise is like new. If you look at the really older encounters, or even the encounters from like the 90s, you don't get as much as the popping as you do now. I feel like it's the same thing. It's portals opening and closing, whether it's going to alternate dimensions or like wherever they're going somewhere other and they're using portals. I don't know if all portals, I think it's like, honestly, I think portals are a technological thing in other dimensions. And maybe this is just some newfangled portal with like, it's possible, right? Where this dimension isn't really good at portals. So these ones make sounds. You know, the BEK aren't very good at convincing people they're actual little kids. You know, when are they going to catch on that it's the eyes? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if they just would change that, they probably would get in a lot more. But it's like they can't. And what are their eyes always likened to? The grays. The big, I mean, they're not half the size of their face, but they're all black, they're almond shaped, and they're shiny, and like an abyss, they are dead. There's no light behind them. And you know, that's why I say, like, I never want to encounter one, but if I did, I would know immediately whether or not they were a light being. There's someone out there that said that, I don't believe this, but I did take something from this story. The person said that they opened the door and they said, "You can cut the crap. I know what you really are." And then the BEK transformed into this. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but maybe it happened. You don't know. But to me, it didn't feel right. The BEK transformed into this insectoid creature. And then I was thinking, wow, is that where the hybrid program was from? Maybe it is insectoid. Maybe this person was just exaggerating, or maybe this person wanted to be involved, but they put a good point out. I do believe it's something extraterrestrial. I don't know. And it does drive me crazy because, again, with most things, I can be like, that's what this is. That's what that is. You know,
Yeah, here's one for you. Have there been UFO sightings associated with BEKs? We hear about it about Bigfoot. People see Bigfoot and then have a UFO encounter, or the opposite. So, what about black-eyed kids?
no, not UFO connections, but I'll tell you what, there are men and women in black around these kids a lot. They pick them up.
Really?
When you kick them off your property and the 1950s black classic pulls up, the beautiful old school cars, the old timey cars, usually a woman in black will get out the back seat, open the door for the kids to get in, and a man in black with the fedora and glasses and everything will be driving. Doesn't happen often, but it's happened often enough that it's a thing now. So UFO sightings, no, not that I've come across, and I've done extensive research, but men and women in black are around these kids a lot.
You think it's a government project, like Marcel says here, government project, black-eyed kids?
I really honestly don't know what they would be. See, with the MIB and the WIB, the men and women in black, I believe some are governments who said, "Oh wow, people think these are government agents. Let's go tell people not to talk and pretend to be MIB." But I do think they are actually extraterrestrial entities that work for certain governments, the United States government particularly. I don't know the connection. I don't think the BEK are working for the government, but are whatever the MIB and WIB, whatever their agenda is, are the BEK from where they are? Do they share the same agenda? Because the MIB and the WIB have a lot of similarities with the BEK, right? They're very robotic. They're very monotone. They don't know what to do with like normal things. So like a BEK was trying to eat Jello with a fork, or an MIB was trying to eat Jello with a fork, whereas the BEK asked the one guy for ketchup to put on his apple. You know what I mean? They have
Stuff
a
that
lot
doesn't
of
make
similar.
sense.
Yes.
Well, okay, so this is very creepy, and I want to get your feelings on this. So there's two parts to this. So Aaron's Energy says, my son Braden saw the Hat Man from when he was about 8 until he was 16. He would see three in the corner of his room, and they would creep toward him. The more fear he gave off. Now I'm going to hide that for a minute. But then Aaron goes on to say he's 22 now and said it tried to convince him that his family didn't love him, etc. Have you heard of Hatman? What is this?
And I put in chat, I'm like, man, you say Hat Man, and I picture the man from Poltergeist.
Oh, the preacher.
The preacher
shadow
that would
form.
come to the door. Yep.
Yeah, in shadow form, that's exactly it. So my my third book, Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond. Yes, I did. That was the cover that scared you so much, Wayne.
Yes. Yes.
I did talk about the Hat Man a lot, and I still do. And in that book, and I also did the Paranormal Press magazine, I did an article. I actually had the same issue when I was younger. I had what I called the family. And shadow entities do not communicate, as far as we know. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, he still has it.
Creepy. Yeah, I've got them all sitting right here.
They do not communicate as far as we know. You guys are so awesome. It's so cool. But I think they might, because a couple of people have come forward saying that, you know, they thought to themselves, I could hurt you, but I'm not going to, and things like that. So maybe they're giving off something. With me, I had 3. It was a family until the Hat Man showed up. They would try to get me, they would try to actually physically compel me to chew wires, live wires, like things that were plugged in. They would tell me, like, Gemma, they would whisper in my ear, and I'd be playing with friends and nobody else could see them in broad daylight. And these shadows would tell me, Gemma, in about 30 seconds, run across the street. You want to see how fast you can run. And I would ignore them. And 30 seconds later, a truck would come flying by and like the wheel would pop off, or I would have gotten hit and killed. And they did the same thing to me. I don't think, I'm talking when I was like 8 or 9 years old, so I didn't know really, but I don't think that these are, I think these are a whole different thing that are presenting as shadow entities. I believe they're from another dimension. The only way they can show up is in shadow. What the Hat Man has to do with them, I don't know, because usually the Hat Man is like kind of the leader, if you will, of shadow entities. But when they're speaking, even if it's telepathically, please be sure that 99.9% it's not an actual shadow person. It is something lower vibrational, evil, possibly demonic, but it is not a shadow person. They do not communicate, not in that way.
Wow. Let's see. We got Hava in chat, and she says, my brother had a similar experience. A man would visit his dreams, trying to convince him to go with him, and that this man was his new dad. We were young, but he was deeply affected by this.
And this is where, you know, demonic activity and possible extraterrestrial activity come in. So I believe that a lot of us are here, like the dream I told you guys that my friend and I both had at the same age, where we were coming off a ship and now we got to be human and we can't bring our alien toys. I believe that a lot of us, people with abilities like mine specifically, but also very sensitive people, like you guys, most of the people in the chat, we share some form of connection with ETs, whether it's DNA or whether we came here actively to achieve something that we don't even know we're achieving because we're doing it subconsciously. But a lot of the time, evil will present itself in that way to try to take someone who has some sort of, and I know this is going to sound kind of cheesy, but in my experience, it is what's true, to try to take someone who has some sort of sacred special mission regarding their soul. So they might not be consciously aware that, you know, one day they might save someone's life who then goes on to do so. You know, there's a reason we're all here. But when this type of thing happens, it's these evil entities particularly trying to stop specific events from happening. Okay, so where I was confronted by the actual devil when I was pregnant and didn't even know. The devil told me, which was strange, telling me that I can have everything. And I mean, my deepest, darkest desires, things I've never spoken about publicly, or like I don't even think have come out of my mouth ever. You know, we all have those things, that if I would just kneel and just, you know, give him up. And I had no idea who him was. I know now that I was pregnant, which I don't talk much about because I don't like bringing my little guy into it. But that was an entity trying to stop me from doing this, because this was right before I started YouTube and started really putting myself out there. And I feel like I would have lost everything at that time and I would have taken a different path. So as far as your friend, I don't know what your friend is doing now, if your friend is alive and well now, but there is something with your friend that I would say is energetically special or extra, very abundant, maybe a light worker, maybe they have ET ties. There's something about your friend that this entity wanted to stop, even on a small scale. Doing a kind deed for someone who is thinking about not being here anymore. Even if one day they do that, they help an old lady with her groceries and she was ready to, off it later, but that kindness helped her. There's some reason that these entities are trying to target specific people. What better way to do it when we're at our most vulnerable, which is when we are dreaming? That's why shadow entities, the old hag, the black cat, all of these entities usually attack while we're sleeping. And that's because we're most vulnerable then. So your friend probably has something special about his or her energy that this thing was attracted to and thought, I better snuff that out before they can see down the line. We can't. Does that make sense? I hope I put that in a way that makes sense, because it makes sense in my head. And then when I start talking, I go on like side quests and I don't remember where I started sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I blame Michelle for everything because she's, what are you? O negative? What is
A
it?
negative.
A negative.
Oh,
She's the RH, one of those RH people.
My mom is too. And there is something truly special about that. And I do believe that a lot of people with that blood type, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have like repressed abductions that you don't remember, or some sort of entity encounter. Whereas like your guides will approach you while you're sleeping to do healings, to bring you to astrally travel, to bring you to the Galactic Federation, all of these things that you may not even remember, like you're consciously blocking out because like that's a huge thing. Like what would you do with that if you knew? But one day it will hit you that you've had these experiences. I believe that is an extraterrestrial blood type. And I believe that wholeheartedly because it's the only blood type we cannot trace back to anywhere.
What did they say? 15%? Is it 15% of the world's population is RH negative?
And we don't know where it comes from.
That's the thing.
I've heard recently that they've somehow traced it back to like, I don't know. I don't want to put it out there unless I remember it properly, but something to do with like Ancient Aliens was talking about it. And it was like with these reptiles, creatures. Look, I believe it's ET. I'm not going to, because I don't want to put it out there and then I say it the wrong way. And then it
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm seeing a lot of people in chat right now, according to YouTube and wherever we're at. We've got like 41 people watching right now. Okay. I want everybody who is RH negative.
Well, I know that Blue and Aaron
I want everybody who's RH negative, put a 1 in chat. I'm just curious to see this. I'm A positive. So I want to see how many 1s we have pop up.
I'm O positive as well.
You're O positive. Because it's an interesting. Okay, so we got 3 right now.
I know Aaron.
I think Ghost is. I definitely think Ghost is.
All right, so there's 4. 5.
I'm telling you,
Nightmare.
You're gonna find them.
Yeah, nightmare.
In this community, you will find more than normal. I'm telling you. How do you know your blood type? Nuts up. You probably
the doctor can tell you.
You probably are, dude. Not gonna lie. I know you well enough. You probably are.
Dorothy says she doesn't know. Huh. I just wonder, are all the negative, like the RH negative people, are they all drawn to this stuff for some reason? But then that doesn't explain.
Well, if you think about
positive.
Well, women that are RH negative and the fact that we have to receive a special shot if you become pregnant.
Oh, yes.
Because of the antibodies the cells going after.
Yes.
Like my daughter was A positive. So I had to get the shot so that my body did not attack her.
That same thing was with my mom and my oldest sister where my mom is the negative and my sister was the positive, and she had to get these shots. And when I was younger,
Yeah.
I didn't believe her. I was like, get out of here. Now I know that that
Mhm.
is absolutely true. And listen, think about it. We can't go into outer space without wearing special suits, right? We can't breathe the air. And it's kind of a known fact in the ufology community that a lot of these ETs cannot breathe our air. Like we're very contagious. So think about that for a minute. We're contagious to them. Their air is contagious to us, or at least we can't breathe in it. A lot of them have to wear these crazy suits or stay in the ship and bring us to the ship, or somehow energetically materialize, but they can't physically. They have to grow the human alien hybrids in these pods so listen, think about that for a minute and think about what you just said. You have to worry about your body attacking your baby if you have this blood type. To me, there's a correlation there. There's a connection. And I've always believed, well, at least for the past 15, 20 years, that this is the remnants of an extraterrestrial race that played around and messed with. From what I was told, what I understand, and I was told this by ETs, is just that during one of my many astral travels, is that they were back in like ancient Egypt, when you see all the pictures of the reptilian gods and the things that shouldn't be their spaceships and stuff. They were experimenting on human beings, trying to create hybrids, to create this better race that would understand better what they were trying to teach, peace, love, all this stuff. And that race was wiped out, whether you believe by the flood or whatever, but some of it still exists, and that's in you guys.
Well, and I still say with being the RH negative, and Wayne, as far as looking at the remote viewing, when we did that
Oh my
episode,
God, dude.
I freaked him out.
I didn't see that.
Oh my God. That was not even funny what happened. So we had Sir Brian Bowman on, and he does remote viewing. And so he wanted to do an exercise with us, and he had 5 images that he put into envelopes, and we were to concentrate and try to figure out. And we did all this live on the show. And you guys, if you want to watch this, go ahead, and you're gonna
I'm definitely going to be watching it.
You're gonna have your minds blown, because I was just blown away, because Michelle was
So I had literally, I was able to say what was in one of his envelopes, 3 envelopes ahead of what he was.
She was always one ahead.
Or more.
Yeah, or more. But
what was really creepy was one of the pictures that I had provided at least 4 or 5 details. The very next day in my phone, I'm just scrolling through, and Click on Detroit comes up, and it's
a news channel.
A young man, 30
something,
happened to be over in the same exact area of that photo, and had
Germany.
pushed a woman off the bridge next to this church castle type structure. That was the same exact one from that photo.
And it was the same photo. It was the same castle from Germany that the Detroit news station used here to put out the news article from Facebook. And he had thrown 2 women off of this bridge. One of them died,
survived,
and one survived. And guess what? So Michelle saw the image, gave all the description of the image, but we didn't have that revealed to us until 2 envelopes later.
I didn't know the news report until the next day either.
Right. I go to work, and I tell one of my coworkers about this. The guy that did the throwing of the women off the bridge, freaked out, lived a couple doors down from her.
Okay. So if you notice, I need to say this. I need to say it because one way I test people about what their abilities are, I do private readings, private instruction. I don't do it often, but I will sometimes, is I ask them, tell me what I have in my pocket, or tell me what's in my hand right now, things like that. The reason I do this, and I want to say, do you notice I pick up a lot more energetically off Michelle? Wayne, I can read you, but I would have to concentrate, and you'd have to invite me to do it. Michelle, I just see, and I see very clearly. When I see someone else with abilities like mine or similar to mine, I'll see a funnel. It's just like a little funnel on top of their head, like a little tornado funnel. And the bigger the funnel, the more ability the person has. The reason we all have these funnels is because these darker spirits and these lighter spirits, they roam around waiting for someone to open up, and they just whoop right in, and then they're attached to you. I know that's super scary, but that's what's going on. Michelle, you more than likely, if you worked at this and you decided I want to work with my ability, I guarantee you, I bet anything that I own on it, that you are some sort of psychic or either some sort of clairvoyant, clairsentient. You're a clair, I would say. Some sort of inner knowing, psychic knowing. Like I always say, I'm a psychic knower. I don't know exactly what the proper word is because I'm not technically a psychic, but I'll know, you know? I guarantee you have that same ability. Because there's no way a regular quote unquote person would be able to do that. Your energy, your blood type, the fact that I always see you immediately whenever I look at you, it's always energy first. Usually someone has to invite me in to do that. It's very invasive when they don't. So I turn it, I can't block you. And that's a lot of the reason I'll comment on your energy immediately because I can see it. It's just there. I guarantee you, if you ever looked more into this and you worked at it, you would find out that you're some sort of clairsentient or some sort of psychic, have some psychic ability there. Guaranteed, if you picked up oracle cards, you'd be able to read them, probably like me, probably on your first try.
It's pretty
I'd love
frightening.
to see it.
It's pretty frightening what she did in that episode. And I'm telling everybody, look up the episode with.
It's not frightening. It's special. That is amazing. I guess it could be kind of creepy when you don't expect it.
And there's other things too.
Hey, I know what I'm doing when I retire in 5 years now.
You really should. I'm
Move
telling
me
you.
by the water and give me some oracle cards.
I'm telling you, I do not believe you'd have a hard time with it at all, especially hearing that. And I'm going to go back and watch. And it's always your energy that I see. Like I'm on repeat right now because I'm not really shocked, but I'm glad someone else said it because it, you know, if you would ever be open to that, you'd be find that you'd very successful. You might get more visitations too, though, you know, but you'd be able to work with that. You know, I've had to be trained and train myself and go to people who have trained me how to, you know, if I'm watching a news story, I don't want the dead person showing up in my room anymore.
Exactly.
Because that always happens. It always freaking happens. And it's cool when it's a celebrity, but it's not cool when it's like a 5-year-old. You know, what do I do? Hi. You know, I'm not going to the police with your story because last time I did that, I was interrogated for 12 hours and I don't like cops. So
yeah.
You want a candy bar? Like, what do we do here? So I just don't, you know, that is amazing. Good for you. Good for you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it was
that was a wild show.
That was a wild show because I was getting some of them and I was like one jump ahead, like before he would show it. I think I had one or two that really didn't seem to make. Oh, that's what it was. I read what he did before he joined the show. Because I said something like China, nuclear war, I see missiles or whatever. And there was nothing there. But then he giggles and he goes, well, I was reading that's what it was. I was reading him. I was reading what he was doing. You were reading what was in those envelopes. I could figure out what he had done that
different
day.
Ability.
Yeah.
It's different ability, but it's all, again, I believe it all relates back to ET. I really do. Where else is this coming from? You know, I'm a religious person, so I would say God guides me in it, but I don't think this was given to me by, you know, God. I believe that it's higher elevated. I don't believe it's anything negative, demonic, evil, you know, and I grew up my whole life being told that that's what I was and, you know, witch and all this stuff. But when you come into it, you start to realize that, you know, I'm helping people regardless. So I don't think if it was something evil, we'd be able to help people the way we do. I guarantee you, honey, when you decide to retire, if that's what you want to do, I will help you open up and I will help you protect yourself and I will help you get moving, grab some decks. I'll even send you some. And that could be your retirement because I'm telling you, won't miss. And I knew there was
I'll
something.
be burning sage every night.
I just could never tell you what it was. I just knew it. And I think that's why I always see your energy so clearly. Like, I'm going to watch that. That's amazing.
This is back to the Black Eyed Kids for a moment. And it was one of the questions I had started. Do the Black Eyed Kids block their appearance to everyone other than their intended target?
Ooh.
Now, that is a great question. I talk about that in my book, Danger at Your Door, which, by the way, Nutslap gave me the title for. I was freaking out. I couldn't think of a title. Thank you, Nutslap. There's a chapter called, and I don't have my book in front of me. The only one I have is the newest one, but it's called "No, Not Everyone Can See Them." So just like what Wayne was talking about before, where he was saying like somebody will point and say, "Do you see that?" And the other people like they're like, "What are you talking about?" It's the same thing with the BEK, where there will be someone who sees a BEK, either outside of, not once they knock, but someone could be on the couch and the person's talking at the door and the person's like, I don't hear anybody. Or there was like, I think it was like a gas station attendant and he was hiding, cowering, and there were other people there. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, the kids that are right there banging on the window. He locked them all into like the gas station because he wasn't letting those kids in. And the other people are like, what are you talking about? They're not there. They can block themselves from people, and they do. And they usually do that when they're in a more public setting. But that's how I know these are targeted and they're not random. You know what I'm saying? Why go through all of that trouble when you could just go to like the house across the street where no one's going to see you? No, they wanted this gas station attendant. They wanted his fear. And the one thing I can tell you guys, and people always laugh, but this is the advice I give my best friends, I would give my children, and I give my mama, okay? When you come across something like this, particularly shadow people during sleep paralysis, but it will probably work with BEK too. Anything lower vibrational, darker, anything with the ick, right? Force yourself. It's going to be so hard. Force yourself to just start laughing. Fake it till you make, just laugh. I've seen shadow entities literally. Now they have no features. They can't look confused. Dude, I've seen them be confused because they're there to feed off the terror. Our terror and fear, they're the highest besides anger and our sexual energy. It's the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like so much. It's like the highest level of emotion we can feel is like terror, anger, and the sexual energy. So I have heard of shadow entities creeping in the corner when people were in bed. They want that high, intense energy. If you start laughing and they don't get it, that's higher vibrational energy, they're going to leave you alone. They will. I've seen it across the board happen.
Well, you say that and it made me think of something. Our bodies produce certain hormones and cortisol when we're stressed and things like that. And I wonder if that's one of the big things why it's always about terror. Because when we saw that triangle, there was a voice, I was like amazed by what we saw. I'm looking at it. Michelle's looking at it. She's putting the window down, trying to see if it's making noise and whatever. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, once the initial shock of thinking it was an airliner crashing on the road in front of us and we were, that was the end for us. I wasn't even afraid until I heard the voice in my head that said, "Get away. You don't belong here. Get away." And it wasn't my voice, but when it hit me with it. I can't, it was communication through emotion. And
You felt it. It was energetic communication. Sure.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I freaked right out. I mean, I've jumped out of airplanes. I've rappelled out of helicopters. I've fired all kinds of weapons. I've been in fights. I was never this terrified before in my life. It felt like it was, like it wasn't natural. And man, that's when I gunned it to try to get out of there. And then the damn thing rotated and started moving parallel to us.
That is energetic communication. And that's what I'm talking about. If you start laughing, You're not reciprocating that energy. You're not giving them what they want. They're going to very quickly move on to the next because, Name, great question. What do the shadow people do with this energy they capture from us? They feed off it. They literally, like we eat food, they feed on it. They don't obviously like eat it with their mouths, but they energetically feed. If it weren't for this symbiotic relationship, though, they would just kill us all and take over. They need us somehow because they're energetic beings. You got to remember, any kind of spirit, whether it be a jinn, an angel, a ghost, whatever, a guide, a shadow person, they're in spirit. They don't need anything physical. So how are they going to, if they're so dark, how are they going to get the light that they need to survive? Because all beings do need light. They're going to take it from light beings. We are the weakest link as far as light beings go. All of the humans on all of the earths, and there are many, 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 many dimensions, an innumerable amount, and there are humans just like us in all of them. We in the third dimension are the weakest link. We have no recall, most of us. We have no ability, most of us. Most of us don't know, like we're literally in a matrix. We're weak minded. And I don't mean that to be mean. I'm included. It's just how they see us. And what they do with it is they feed off of it and they build themselves up and they become bigger and they run with the light. And then as soon as our light that they fed off of dies out, they're back in their dark corner, skulking, waiting for the next. They can't produce their own light. They are not given their own light by the creator, the universe, God, whatever you call it, because they are evil. They're soulless. And a lot of ETs, and I've done a couple videos on this, are there looking for our soul. They're trying to replicate a soul. We are the only ones that have them. So we're the only ones that get, light and love and that type of energy. These lower vibrational, dark shadow entities, evil, demonic, whatever you want to call them, beings, they have no light source except for the light energy they take from us. Oddly enough, it comes usually in the form of terror, but it's still them taking our light, our essence, our energy.
All right, Michelle, does that answer the question from Nate?
It does.
All right. Now, Michelle decided to get a little pithy here in the chats, I see. Wayne folding laundry. Now, there's a paranormal activity.
No, they were talking about folding laundry. So I had to do it. I had to say something.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Supernatural, baby.
Right. Sure. Let's see here.
An adventure out of this world.
Oh, Aaron says that they feel like we are like beacons, or Aaron feels like we are the beacons. Yeah,
we are. It's like I always tell people, I don't suggest use a Ouija board. It took me almost 3 years to train to do it properly, and I still won't touch them. Don't use any divining tools. You have to be trained in these things. And I'm fortunate enough, my spirit guide trained me. Lucky me. And I do kind of flex on that. But it's hard to become trained to do those things. But if it were someone I were training, I would tell them to light a candle, no artificial light at all. Spirit is attracted to natural light, not sunlight. For some reason, the flickering of a flame, that sort of light, that's what you always want to use when you're trying to communicate with spirit, even with automatic writing. So we're like that for these beings. It's like we're the candle. We are the flickering light. They do see us. And that's like me when I always say I can shut out some of it, but it gives me a headache. It makes me real sick when I'm, if there are dead, say in the woods behind my house, they're going to see me as though I'm shining through the roof. And I'll give you a quick example. The first time I spent the night at my mom's new house, she no longer lives there. And I've told this story and it's in my books. I'll give you the quick rundown. I slept in her bed with her. My stepfather slept in the room next door. And my son, Damien, who's also a very powerful medium who has completely shut it down. He was 16 at the time. He was sleeping in the room next door. So we're all three sleeping upstairs. I'm in the bed with my mom and my little guy is in the middle. All the lights are off. We have like light from a street light shining in on this side. And my mom had not had any activity in that house. She had been living there like 6 or 7, maybe 8 months at that point, but she had felt some things were off, but nothing big. So my son jumps up and he points to the bottom of the bed and goes, "No." And I just hold him. He goes right back to sleep. The minute his head hits the pillow, my mom jumps out of bed. She runs into the wall. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. Now, my mom, they call her Miss Horror. All she watches are horror movies. She won't watch anything else. She's not a scared woman, right? I don't know if I've ever seen her cry like more than once in my 41 years. She's terrified. She's trying to run to the door. And as I'm watching, now she's screaming at the top of her lungs, banging into everything. I'm yelling, "Mom, Mom." My son's just laying there sleeping as though nothing is going on. She's running to the door and I see her flying through the air backwards and hitting the wall. This happened 3 times. Finally, my stepfather, complete and total non-believer, God rest his soul, comes in and he's freaking out. She's like, "There's something. It was an animal. It was at the bottom of the bed." My stepfather's like, "A raccoon? Was it a raccoon?" I'm like, "No, Garrett." I'm like, he's like, "You better not be talking about anything paranormal. It was a spider. It was a spider, right?" So we're just like, yeah, maybe it was a spider, right? So my mom goes to sleep in the room with him. They turn all the lights off and leave me and my little guy just laying there. As soon as my mom's out of the room, my little guy wakes up. He's like, "Can I have some milk?" You know, like it was weird that he slept through all of this mayhem and chaos. But he woke up pointing to that exact spot, saying no right before it happened. She said she saw the shadow entity lean into her, and there was a shadow animal running back and forth across her legs. And that's what attacked her. But the reason I brought this story up is because she had never had any experiences. But if you think about it, right? I've agreed with my husband not to talk about my little guy's abilities, whether or not he has any. Okay. But it's me, my mother, who is Native American and has ancient healer in her that she doesn't use. My son over in the other room, my 16, 17-year-old son, who is a more powerful medium and seer than I am, and me, all in this one teeny little area. She lives across the street from a church and a funeral home. We must have lit that house up like it was the sky on 4th of July. So of course something came running. All that to say, we are beacons, and the more of us together, the more light we produce and the more we're going to bring to us. And if you don't know how to protect your home, your property, and your person from those things, especially being sensitives, guys, you really could be in some trouble. Remember the funnel I was talking about? Ghosts are always floating. No, they're not. They're in their own dimension, which is about 3 inches above ours. They're walking on their own ground. They're just above. All of these things, and it's going on, and I can see a lot of it, and a lot of it I tune out. Most people can't see it, but please believe there is a spiritual war, and you should protect yourself however you feel you are protected. If you resonate with that protection, guys, do it. If there's no one thing, prayer, sage, running through your yard naked, howling at the moon, it doesn't matter. If you believe that's protection for you, you will bring on that energy of protection, okay? Sacred herbs, I always recommend them, because no matter what your deal is, you should at least be able to do that without having any issue, right? It does work, and we should all be protecting ourselves for that reason. I want to do a spirit call, Jersey Devil Hunt, and I want to live stream most of it in the Pine Barrens here. I want to get together my subscribers. I want to sell tickets for it. I'm going to get 2 cabins, one for the guys, one for the gals, be there like 3 or 4 nights, and I want to live stream. I'm going to hold my own seance because I know how to do it where it's not really like a seance, but we'll bring some spirit through, maybe use a spirit box, something like that. I'll channel, and then we'll see if we can find the Jersey Devil. Fun times. Please believe I will be protecting each and every person that comes to this thing, and that's going to be like a stipulation, right? Because it would be irresponsible of me to invite all of these empathic, sensitive people and nut slap. Yes, I'm talking to you because I don't care if you think you are or not. You were drawn here for a reason. You are. And just, again, I ramble and I go on side quests. But all that to say, guys, we need to really protect ourselves because we are beacons. And sometimes we need to dim that down. The last thing I want to say about that is when I walk down the street, like if I go to a fair or a crowded place, I will imagine myself like from head to toe surrounding me, mirrors that are my size. So I'm 5'6.5". So mirrors that are 5'6.5" tall, right in front of me, but facing outwards, right? So the mirror part that you'd see into is facing outwards. I just close my eyes and envision these mirrors, a circle of them around me. You will see people literally cross the street to avoid you when you do this exercise. And it's only a mental exercise. You don't have to do anything physically. Why? Evil can't look at itself. That is absolutely true. It doesn't want to look at itself. It can't face itself. And a lot of times it can't face your light, which the mirrors will project outwards. If you want people, creeps, to stay away from you, do that exercise. I guarantee you, you'll see at least one person look at you funny that you don't even know. You'll smile at them and they will avoid you like the plague because they don't want to look at themselves.
Wow. Yeah.
That's how I weed out the creeps. If I meet someone, I imagine that mirror in front of me and I watch their reaction. We're sensitives. A lot of you guys don't know you have the ability and the power inside of you to project that kind of stuff. You can do those tiny little exercises, no problem, as long as you really believe you can. Watch the next time you meet someone new and you get a bad feeling, put the mirror up, see how they behave. I guarantee you it'll change.
Yep. Wow.
Do it. Experiment time. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think Michelle's doing it to me right now. I want to leave.
I wonder how that would look in my classroom.
But they won't know because it's all in your mind. You're just imagining it. and you're just projecting that energy out. Even if you're meeting someone face to face, just do one. Just imagine that you're standing behind a mirror and that person's looking not at you, but into a mirror. Watch their behavior change. If they're higher vibrational, light being a good person, there's going to be no difference. They may be more attracted to you because you're reflecting their light back to them. If they are lower vibrational, bad, evil, whatever they are in any way, they will change their behavior. They may start to sweat,
avoid eye contact.
They will avoid eye contact. And some of us, like myself, they might avoid, depending what level they're at, they might avoid contact anyway. Michelle, you might notice people doing that with you a lot because your energy is so fierce. And so you're just so open, you know. And now that I realize that, I may want to text you maybe like a 2-minute video, 3-minute video of how you can like tone that down so you don't attract the wrong type of energy. I think that'd be a really positive thing for you. But you may notice it more when you're like, man, you'll notice someone's strange behavior all of a sudden more than a regular person will, because you are open, you're a knower, you are definitely a seer. Like I said, I'd stake my reputation on it that you find out one day you are. Just like me, just a little bit different.
Well, it's kind of like even with my students, I can read, like, I don't want to say that I can read their energy, but it's almost like I can tell what sort of people that they are going to become later on, whether or not they're going to be, you know, negative or positive, you know, out in the real world. And like right now, they're having a hard time. I've got a handful of them. They cannot make eye contact with me whatsoever.
And it's not behavior based. That's what I want people to understand. It's not because they're doing bad things. It could be the best student in the class. You'll notice though that Susie with the straight A's is not going to be like, she's going to have issues or she's going to cause some issues. I want people to understand that what you're talking about, it's not behavioral. It's energetic. And that's what you're seeing. I want you to take a look at that too. Maybe some of them have some behavioral issues, but take a look at the more non-behavioral issued students, the better students, right? And I guarantee you will see darkness in at least some of them, and you'll have the same feeling. Once you start to read people's energy that way, you do a quick scan of them. A quick scan. Are they looking you in the eye? And for a split second, zone out and see how your energy is feeling with theirs. I guarantee you will connect to, is this person going to be a productive member of society, or are they, you know, is there something wrong there? And normally at that age, they have attachments that they don't know about that are feeding off them, making them that way, that they'll never get rid of until they're aware of it.
Well, and it's a lot of times why, you know, they say that, you know, people have the energy, you know, sucked out of them or the life sucked out of them.
Psychic vampires.
So, and it's like psychic little vampires when you have 130 to 140 of them a day. And
I can teach you how to protect yourself a little bit with that too. Very simple, by like carrying a certain kind of charged crystal, or I'll send you some text of just like some really quick things you can do in the morning and maybe after school to get that energy off of you. You're not going to feel 100% better, but I think you'll feel a lot better and a lot brighter, because if you think about it, they're behaving this way because they have attachments that they're not aware of. They can't do anything about the attachment till they become aware of it, which they might never, right? Unless they're just a dark spirit, they have attachments that are feeding off of them, causing them to behave in certain ways and dimming their lights, right? So that is going to completely and totally suck you dry. And that may be why, you know, once you start protecting yourself from that a little bit and you just get used to doing these tiny little exercises, you're going to feel so much better. Like, I promise you, because you are so sensitive to it, you're going to be the first person they're attracted to energetically feed off of. Their attachments are going to lean them to you. And that's so many kids. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you know, Gemma, one of the things, man, you know how I have in my little tagline there, it says it's 3:33 somewhere.
I didn't see it, but
yeah, it's small. It's right there. It says it's 3:33 somewhere.
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it. Yeah.
After the UFO incident, I kept on waking up at that time of night. Every time I started looking at a clock or whatever, I just happen to see what time it is. It's 3:33. Today, just getting into the car to go and hit the grocery store and grab dinner. I turn the truck on. I look, it's 3:33. So, I mean, it's so weird.
Let's
But
see what that angel number means.
okay, while you're doing that, this is why I love doing a live show with audience participation, because
Speaking of audience participation.
yeah, our cat, who's crazy, Kelly Lewis sent me a picture of what one of her friends caught outside of her house. Now, Aaron, you were talking about your son seeing Hat Man, and there would be 3 of them in his room. Yeah, prepare yourself.
Crap, I'm having nightmares tonight.
This is insane. This was caught on a ring cam. Look at that. See, audience participation. Look, you can see the brim of the hat right there.
Ooh, I just
it's
got
like
chills.
somebody. You're
Ooh, I
getting
got
chills
chills.
off of this.
Oh,
I am not. I'm not liking it,
dude, I can make out even like part of the face.
Yeah.
Michelle, do you see anything else going on in that photo besides the obvious?
I see it almost looks like hands up, almost like pleading or begging.
There's so much going on in that picture. I almost don't even want to look at it. Over in the darkness, away from the entity, guys, there's actually, I don't know if you guys can see it. It could be an energetic imprint. And Michelle, if you weren't on the spot, I guarantee you'd be able to see it.
I see a face in the concrete.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, God dang. Dude.
There's so much more happening in that picture that I wonder, like, first of all, is that thing glowing because of like the flash or something?
No,
because
it's a ring
Hat Man
cam.
The Hat Man is always in shadow, black.
It's a ring cam. They don't have
okay
lights or
I don't
anything.
know anything about them. I am so tech challenged. Would you
Kelly says, Gemma Jade, you would not believe her footage.
I was just going to ask you, Kelly, if you minded maybe emailing me the footage or allowing Wayne and Michelle to. There's a lot going on in this picture.
I'll forward it to you, Gemma.
That is an entity wearing a hat, but it is not the Hat Man. And I would love to look a little deeper, maybe go into meditation, ask my guides. I would like to figure out what this is. There's something going on here. There's like an exchange. I'm seeing another darker entity towards the left-hand side. And it seems to me that it's like holding something out to this entity, which by the way has a tail. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That this looks sus to me. There's something like ET-ish. If you look, okay, so do you see in the top leftish corner like that light there?
Yes.
Yes, right there. Look down, connect it to that light, and then look. Do y'all see a snake? Not periodola, like just there's a snake.
I'm seeing either a snake or a face with like a wide open mouth.
Up to the right, Wayne. Down a little bit. Right there. It's a side, the eye, and then you have the little flick of the. Okay, so a lot of people are like, well, that's periodola. No. Periodola is like you see something in the lights. There's something very strange going on here, and I don't think I have seen ETs when I used to go into people's houses to see what was going on, disguise themselves as shadow people many times. It's one of the things they do. It's happened even on the Dead Files. Amy has said, no, not shadow people, it's ETs.
Gemma, can you see the it says home, and you see the 3 emojis?
I do not see that part. No.
Let me
the
turn
banner
off.
is kind of covering
Let me
it.
turn that banner off real quick. Do you see it now?
Oh my God.
What?
So she sees it.
The dragon.
So she sees it. I'm telling you, there's something there. an owl face near the light, waiting for that to be recognized. Light beings, yes, but I don't think they're like we would think of spirits, or I don't know. It has a sinister feel, but then a part of me, that's why I'd like to review it maybe like with my team and see if I can.
All right.
And if you have other footage, I would love for you to send it to me. Once you email me first, I'll just give you my number. You can text me.
I sent it to you, Gemma.
Thank you. I'd love to go deeper
It's
into
in
that.
your
There's
email.
something really strange about that. It's definitely not Hat Man, though. It's an entity in a hat. I can see that. But if you saw it had the tail, so I wouldn't be too worried yet. A lot of the times ETs do present themselves in shadow because for some reason they think that's less scary, particularly when kids are involved. So I would just want to make sure that there's no like abduction plot, or that there was no one abducted. Okay. Yeah, we should probably
she has dragons all around her.
Let's talk a little bit because if we're talking about, we were talking about extraterrestrial DNA. Does she or he have a connection to them? Or yes, blacker than black. And guys, we don't have time tonight, but eventually when I come on again, we'll talk about the Hat Man. I have this crazy theory that it's one, and it was once human. And I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger on that. It's not in my book because this theory came to me after. And I got a lot of corroboration from people who have encountered it, and also from my team. So,
okay. Well, we're gonna get you back on here. We're almost at 2 hours already. This has been amazing. And
we're gonna leave.
We tend to do that.
Yeah,
we do that a lot.
Yeah,
really
we do.
Time,
Maybe we'll even do like a special off the normal schedule type of show to get you back on here, because we need to talk about these gone mysterious disappearances books that you got. But it's running late, and yes, gone. So
whenever you guys, I don't do many interviews, so just let me know and we'll make it work. I didn't even realize 2 hours until I just looked. This is amazing. Kelly, anybody else too, if you guys have questions. I don't have all the time in the world, but I do get to everybody who reaches out eventually. Sometimes you got to email me twice, but I will get to you and I will help you as much as I can. I'm not like one of those people that's like, well, how much are you? Like, I don't do the money thing in that situation, especially when there's a kid involved. I would love to help you guys figure out your footage or your, and I'll take your stories for my listener encounters if y'all have them. So.
Awesome. All right, everybody. It's Gemma Jade, the writer, the psychic, the intuit, the empath. I think you're a major empath and just an amazing writer as well.
Thank you.
All right, Gemma, we're going to go ahead and kick off here. And everybody, it's at Gemma Jade YT on YouTube. Look up her channel. Yeah, that's really it, Gemma. I mean,
thanks, guys. I love you guys so much.
Oh, and are you doing something coming up here about interviews or something?
I am. I'm trying to work out a schedule with Ghost, and we're gonna have people on. And you were gonna be one of the first because you were one of the first people I was on. So either you and Michelle, I would love to have you both if you have time. Yep. We're just trying to work out like when we're going to do it. But yes, I am a wig enthusiast as well. Thank you, Nutslap. Wayne forgot about that. Wig enthusiast. They always mess with me about my wigs. I'm not going to do this to my natural hair, guys. It's black. Correct. All right. I love you guys. Michelle, hang in there. Right. I would like to send you some text. I'll do it like throughout the week. I'll go through some things with you where you might be able to feel better at the end of the day and not so drained and, drained. All right.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Sounds
good night.
Good. All right. Good night, Gemma. Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, Michelle, man, another 2 hours just flies right by. And what great imagery sent to us from the audience. And
dude, I'm having nightmares tonight over that.
Kelly Lewis, thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the photo, though. I'm going to have nightmares, but thank you for the photo.
We'll be looking into that and see what comes of everything. But everybody in chat, YouTube, Instagram, X, you guys were awesome tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for your donations and your super chats. Amazing. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here. It's been a long day, and I think the thunderstorm has stopped.
Hey.
So, all right, everybody. Michelle, what do you got to say?
Have a great night, everyone.
Have a great night, everybody. And remember, keep those eyes to that sky.